Whoa, buddy, we've got a Time magazine that says these dire wolves have suddenly become de-extincted? This is Remus. He's a direwolf, the first to exist in over 10,000 years. Endangered species could be changed forever. Oh my god, my buddy Joe Rogan said, this one's wild, literally. Ben and his team are Colossal Biosciences. I think it's an ad. Have brought back the dire wolf. Oh man, dude. Whoa, we just brought back an animal from the dead. Why am I talking about it, ladies and gentlemen? What's up with this dire wolf conspiracy you've heard of? Well, it might not actually be entirely true. I don't think everyone's being entirely truthful in this story. Let's get to this Time poster. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, animals go extinct every year, okay? In fact, one of the saddest things that I've read was on the American Museum of Natural History. Basically, they were proud enough to say the current extinction is most likely obviously the result of humans. We're filthy monsters. Scientists estimate that 100 to 10,000 species, it's quite a range, by the way, it's a lot in the middle there, from microscopic organisms to large plants and animals go extinct every year. Now, that includes, little tiny bacteria that are living maybe here, maybe on that flipper zero. Maybe we're talking about some plants, maybe animals that are like human-sized or slightly smaller, your dog-sized animals. Things do go extinct every year, and it's sad, but what do we do as a human species to bring things back? Well, we can go the Jurassic Park route, where we bring back animals that are long dead. And in this case, we started small with the dire wolf, but obviously in a movie like Jurassic Park, they brought back dinosaurs. Now, I've never seen Jurassic Park personally, but I played enough Dino Crisis to know that bringing back a fucking dinosaur or bringing back an apex predator may not always be the greatest idea, okay? But ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the science fiction, let's just look at the science itself. So the reason why I'm talking about it is it's a pretty big to see when like an animal is de-extincted. So the first thing I wanted to see was the actual company behind this, which is Colossal Biosciences. Now, I didn't know this company until I actually started researching this, but they are the de-extinction company. And that woolly mammoth that's on their header is no joke. They actually have a long-term goal of bringing that motherfucking woolly mammoth back into reality, okay? Now, should they? That's a different ethical concern we can talk about. But will they? Actually, I kind of hope they have the technology to do this. So immediately they released like one of these videos like a couple days ago. Sound on, you're hearing the first howl of a dire wolf in over 10,000 years. This animal hasn't been rocking the planet for 10,000 years, okay? We're talking like Ice Age era, probably. Romulus and Remus are their names, and they're the first world's de-extinct animals. That's a pretty big claim. That means you brought back an animal from the dead. So let's listen to the actual howls over here. They're actually so cute. It doesn't even matter if they're like, genetically modified babies. They're just the cutest goddamn things that I've ever heard. So of course, the further I go down their actual like Twitter over here, for instance, you'll see like Borks equals stonk. So their value was, I guess, dropping until they basically released their dire wolf research, and boom, things just started to skyrocket away. So all right, I go to their website over here, and they say they're the science of genetics, but the business of discovery, okay? And, the further I look into it, they talk about de-extinction. Extinction is a colossal problem facing the world. I actually don't doubt about it. Extinction is definitely a real problem. I wonder just how much humans have to do with it. But anyways, combining the science of genetics with the business of discovery. What does that mean? All I know is that there's gonna be a Jurassic Park one day, and the dinosaurs will go crazy. We endeavor to jumpstart nature's ancestral heartbeat, to see the woolly mammoth thunder upon the tundra once again, to advance the economies of biology and healing through genetics. So I guess their goal is written over here is to one day see the woolly mammoth roll upon the plains once again. Now, there's a lot of scientists that have their disagreement with this kind of stuff, for instance. Like there was one paper written by Nature, Ecology, and Evolution by a lot of these scientists where the debates were coming around that maybe spending the resources that we have here on de-extinction could actually just lead to an overall loss. So just a quick here is the arguments in favor of like de-extincting animals is, first off, we need to bring back the animals that we've killed. We've made mistakes as humans. Let's fix them, okay? So it's pretty good, pretty altruistic reason. The counter-arguments include high risk of failure due to difficulties of cloning for some species, technical risks inherent in reintroductions. Basically, if you're going to bring apex predators back, you want to probably hope that you're not destroying an entire ecosystem in the process, okay? But anyways, I'm not a biodiversity expert. I'm just a Indian guy on the internet that has a background in engineering. That's pretty much how it comes down to. So if you are somebody in this field and you can speak more about it, absolutely let me know in the comment section below. But going to this company, Colossal, it's like really altruistic, right? They talk about, according to the leading scientists, 30,000 species on year on average are being driven to extinction. That number just went up. Whoa. 6 per hour. In the hour you watch this video, 6 species lost their right to the human world, okay? It's gone. They're gone from Earth. They're gone from the universe, if anything. And 150 a day and up to 55,000 per year. Okay, so that's wild range, okay? Insanity. That's crazy. I don't want that. I want that number to be 0. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? The UN has declared 1 million animals and plant species are threatened with extinction. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? And the solution that this company provides is de-extinction, a functional application of advanced gene editing technology aimed at rebuilding the DNA of lost megafauna and other creatures that had a measurably positive impact on our fragile ecosystems. And of course, they want to bring back that goddamn woolly mammoth. That's their fucking T-Rex for this operation, dude. In the minds of many, the creature is gone forever, but not in the minds of our scientists, nor the labs of our company. So while that woolly mammoth is like the end goal, I guess the real goal, obviously, is for them to bring back a smaller animal, which obviously in this case appears to be the dire wolf. So one of the big problems and the reason I'm making the video over here is that a lot of this includes scientific miscommunication, okay? No, the dire wolf is not back, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently, it seems that the dire wolf is actually mostly a gray wolf. In fact, from what I've seen, 99% of the actual genetic makeup is just the gray wolf. So how did this company achieve this kind of technology? What did they do, actually? What is something that the Colossal did to de-extinct an animal? So the way that they actually kind of tackle this is these things, which were not achievable before, are now in our laboratories through breakthroughs in things like CRISPR and genetic engineering. They brought back what appears to be a dire wolf, right? They de-extincted this animal. Now, for anybody that has no idea what CRISPR is a gene editing technology. It's called clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats. So basically the idea of it is CRISPR is like the natural defense system that a bacteria can provide against things like viruses. So scientists use 2 components, from my understanding, Cas9 proteins, which are basically this enzyme that are like a DNA cutting tool. It's like scissors for the DNA. And then using the gRNA, which is guide RNA, it tells the Cas9 how to actually cut this DNA. So the reason why you use CRISPR is you can effectively delete genes, you can insert new genes, or you can modify genes that already exist. And if it sounds crazy to you, I guess a very similar gaming version of this could be like Metal Gear Solid, right? You know those genome soldiers in the first game? A lot of those soldiers are genetically modified. They contain traits from Big Boss, one of the biggest soldiers, the best soldiers at the time. And so implementing the soldiers of a, implementing the genetic structure of or the positive genes from one of the best soldiers in the average person, I guess in the game's theory, led to better soldiers, right? Heightened soldiers that had like the craziest like abilities, right? Because they were just copies and upgrades from what a normal human could have been. But obviously in scientific land, right, the cool stuff that you can do with CRISPR right now are things like crops, for instance, right? You can make crops resistant to certain diseases, so you can have more bountiful harvests, right? More food for people. You can possibly, all right, treat things like genetic defects before the birth of, children, which again is super controversial. But from what I understand, even things like sickle cell anemia can be treated through the use of CRISPR. So this technology is effectively what they used for Colossal Biosciences. So what they did was they found the fossil of a fucking dire wolf, and basically they dug out like this 13,000-year-old tooth, and they got like a 72,000-year-old like bone in the ear to sequence the genome structure of the dire wolf. Then, utilizing things like CRISPR, they identified 20 key genetic differences across 14 different actual genes that were responsible for those specific dire wolf traits, right? Like what makes a dire wolf a dire wolf. So things like just a larger size, things like, your whiter fur, so to speak. And then they use CRISPR to effectively modify this into gray wolf actual cells. And then once they had modified these genes, they put them into actual X cells. And of course, then 3 wolf pups came into the world. And yeah, all of a sudden, these pups literally had apparently behavioral traits and the physical, look of extinct dire wolves. And now they're effectively being studied. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how, I guess, scientists have de-extincted an animal. So the thing about it is obviously this would be pretty big news, but it really seems like they're kind of overselling this and they're not really being truthful about de-extincting an animal. Because no, the dire wolves have not come back, according to most of the actual analysis. These are still just gray wolves, except they have more genetic traits that resemble the dire wolf. There's still tons of time of actual genetic changes and actual evolution, actual differences between the gray wolf and the dire wolf that just have not been addressed. Okay, these are still 2 very distinct animals. They've just managed to create a slightly more resembling version. It's like taking humans and I guess implementing them with Neanderthal DNA to bring back the original Neanderthals. You might be able to do that, but with what they've done here, it's just like a weird bastardization of something that's kind of in the middle. Now, one of the things that I wanted to kind of research was obviously, why would a company like this get so involved, right? What is the business sense of just bringing back de-extincted animals, right? Obviously there's got to be something money related to it. Now, obviously these guys have made a fair bit of cash in just, again, being the company that they are and getting investments. So back in 2021, they secured $15 million from just some investors, okay? People from Breyer Capital, guys like Thomas Tull, Tim Draper, all that. And then of course, down the road in 2022, they started to get $60 million in Series A funding. Then they started getting over $100 million in then the Series B funding. And then, of course, finally, around Series C, they ended up getting 200. So this is big money, okay? 200 million, 100 million here. Their valuation went up to $1 billion. They literally became a company that just effectively jumped up in value off of all of these promises of de-extinction. So it's a lot of money that has been put into a company with the super altruistic motive. Now, of course, then you started to get into really crazy spooky shit. Eventually, The Intercept actually ended up reporting that in 2022, the CIA even ended up investing money into it. And you might be like, how do we know the CIA did it? Well, if you ever watched a video that I made about Apple versus the Israeli cybersecurity companies, you would know of one organization known as IQT, which is actually the investment arm of the Central Intelligence Agency. So they put in a lot of money into various sectors for the ultimate goal of global innovation to secure the United States, right? That's how the CIA works. They give money to people who, I guess they feel, contribute to the security of the country. So when I started to look at things like their investments and everything, at least from a personal perspective, it really does feel like at the actual surface, they want to bring back the woolly mammoth. But any company that's involved in things like genetic sciences and fucking around with DNA has me wondering if there's maybe military aspect, especially when you've got the attention of organizations like the Central Intelligence Agency. Just to kind of tangent it off, one of the things that I was watching the other day was Joe Rogan again, right? He was talking about these allegedly Chinese DNA babies where CRISPR was used to modify them into becoming better than average humans. Now, again, I don't know the true reality of it. Again, I'm just saying this because I heard about it. I'm doing more research. It's part of a bigger video later on down the week where we're looking into these edited Chinese babies. This conspiracy stuff's doing really well on the channel. And I feel like a lot of you guys are interested in the same shit that I am, which is why I'm so dead on covering it, because I do like talking about this stuff. It's super duper interesting. But it is one of those things where I wonder what the actual goal of a company like Colossal Biosciences really is. And I don't think it's just to bring back dead animals, okay? That's just way too altruistic for a company that's raised up this much money and has gotten the attention of some really interesting investors. Now, honestly, when it comes to a lie, did Colossal Biosciences do a colossal lie on bringing back the dire wolf, which is the version they have has turned out to basically be like a gray wolf for most of the reason. That is a great comparison. It's kind of like if you took like a chimpanzee and I think like a human being, if you took something that was 90% similar to human beings, and you took like maybe some human elements and implemented it into a different species, and so whatever you created resembled human beings more, obviously, let's be completely honest here, whatever they would generate would not resemble a human being, which is similar to what it appears in this situation, right? It's a gray wolf that is it's got more traits of a dire wolf, but it ain't exactly a dire wolf. So for me, I would consider this to be a little bit more misinformation-y than anything. I do, however, love the actual social media. This is an actual social media post from the guy running the account where they go on to Wall Street Bets, and the fucking moderators on Wall Street Bets are like, why should this post stay up? Why the fuck do a bunch of wolves on a low-effort graph have to do with gambling on the market? I'm glad they just say it's gambling. Don't even bother answering. Go astroturf your garbage somewhere else. And the Colossal guys were like, don't share this meme. It made the Wall Street Bet mods really upset. I just love the fact that I can always agree with, even if I don't agree with what they're promoting here and how they're saying it, I can always agree that Reddit mods are completely overzealous individuals. But yeah, it's the dire wolf, man. Apparently they wanted to say that this fucking majestic beast ended up coming back, when in reality, no, it didn't. This is just, I guess, a way for them to gain more funding and more interest, right? And honestly, I really feel like this is just one of those like big tech businesses that are either around just to raise money and ultimately not really produce anything in the long run of substance, or in my opinion, at least if I was to apply my tinfoil hat, I'm pretty sure that a company like this, when it gets the interest of an organization like the Central Intelligence Agency, has probably doing something more than just bringing back dead animals with the CRISPR technology and the gene editing technology they're using. I somehow think that a lot of the technology here might be used for ultimately more nefarious purposes, or maybe could possibly be used on human beings down the road for ultimately, in my opinion, nefarious purposes. But yeah, according to a lot of the news that came out and the de-extinction of this animal, I don't really believe personally that there's actually been a de-extinction. I think, if anything, this has been the most colossal oversell of something like this. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, all I really wanted to say, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.